Alright, let's take a look at what I've done for here. We got a simple cabinet, and we got a simple drawer that takes a derived part of that cabinet so that we can stretch or grow this cabinet and the drawers will follow. And I'm putting the first mate connector that's attached to the drawer off of this bottom edge, or the midpoint of that bottom edge, so I have a consistent reference. Then we'll delete the cabinet and we'll be left with the drawer with one mate connector that's offset enough to match all of our clearances and gaps, so we don't have to type anything in the main assembly. If that makes any sense. So we're left with the drawer. We'll start by configuring a handful of sizes. So we'll start with, let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40. Now this extrude right here is the only thing we're changing, so I'll edit this, right click and configure the depth, which is going to be the height coming from the bottom of the drawer up. And I have a second direction going down 1 centimeter just for the overlap. So we'll have to add that centimeter. So technically that should probably be 9 centimeters, not 10. To give us a, because right now we're at 11 centimeters of drawer. So we'll change that here. So that'll be 9 centimeters, 19 centimeters, 29 centimeters, and 39 centimeters. Alright, simple enough. Now in the drawer, we'll need to put mate connectors for every condition that it could be to go up, given the spacing of the drawer heights. So what I did is I created to start with a sketch on the midpoint. We'll make sure it's facing perpendicular. And we'll call that drawer positions. Down here, I started by creating a bunch of lines, one for each drawer position. So I think I ended up with 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make them all equal. Make sure they're all in line. And we'll use this front point to define our mate connectors. And we'll just throw a random dimension on here, just so it'd be fully constrained. Doesn't really need to be because we're only using that point, but I'd rather not have these flip it inside out on me if we change the width in some weird way. So now I create a dimension for each one of these, which will be the difference in height between each drawer layer. We don't care what these are right now, so we're going to set these all in configuration. Now we'll create some mate connectors, where the z-axis is going along this line. That's why I made it a line, so it was easier to set that. And we'll give them something recognizable, so we'll call this drawer 1. Do one for each. Now we can set the spacing between each one through the configurations. And we're basically going to see how we are setting definitive sizes over here. We only have 4 different sizes to choose from. We'll keep using the list. So for each one, we'll give it a label. And each one could have any of these sizes. Oops, actually starting with none, because if we don't need the 5th or 6th or whatever slot, then we want to delete it. So that's what the none is going to be for. So 10, 20, 30, and 40. Make one for each drawer. Come on. Okay. New. Drawer 5. Okay, this is the last one. Okay. So now that we have 5 different drawer configurations, we can set the heights for each. So we will edit the sketch, and we'll configure each dimension. So this is the gap for door 1 to 2. So we'll configure that for drawer 1. Configure this for drawer 2, 3, drawer 4. Actually, I did that wrong. So undo that. It's the gap, so that means it's drawer 2's position. Drawer 3, 4, and drawer 5. So we'll set each one of these dimensions in the configuration. So we don't care what that it is for none, but we'll just give it a nominal number. 10 is going to be 10.1 centimeters to give us a millimeter between the millimeter gap between the drawers, so they're not line to line. So that'd be 20.1, 30.1, 40.1. Okay. So now when we change these, you'll see it'll change the gap between each one. It's hard to tell. It looks like this one flipped up over here, but it's not actually what happened. It'll all 3 of these shifted together. Probably be easier if I showed this one going to 20, and then this one at 30. It's still hard to see. Either way, what we're doing is we're changing using this layout sketch to change where these positions are. And that's going to mate this connector right here with a slider, and we'll set the limit in the assembly. What else did we do? I don't remember off the top of my head, so we'll just go right to the assembly. And we'll insert our cabinet. Doesn't matter what configuration we insert it with. And same with the drawer. fix this in position so don't move. Make a couple copies of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll create a slider mate for each one. Set its limit from 0 to 30. If we had a configuration for the depth, then we'd set this to be configured to be whatever you need. I'm just doing 10 centimeters less than the depth. So that should give us a nice constrained door. I'll repeat that a few more times. 0 to 30. And last drawer. Alright, so now we have all our drawers. They'll have should have a millimeter gap, but it looks like they're line to line, so I must have did something wrong. Either way, you're going to set that in the cabinet side. Configurations. Oh, it's because I'm set to none, that's why. That'll clean up later. Alright, so in here, we need to add all of these, oops, different configurations that we have in cabinet. So 4 drawers, we'll go from none to 40 in each one. And we'll label them the same way. 10, 20, 30, 40. I was hoping I could copy and paste all of these, but name drawer 4. And last drawer 5. Okay. So now we got all of our configurations here. And we're going to set all of these to be configured to the suppression state when this is none. Because when it's none, we don't want to see a drawer. That way, when we get 3 drawers and the bottom 2 are tall, we don't have these random drawers above. So we can set all these by configuring to each one. So slider 1 is on drawer 1. So we'll configure suppression to drawer 1. Slider 2 to drawer 2. 3 to drawer 3. 4 to drawer 4. 5 to drawer 5. Okay, so now when these are none, we don't want a drawer. Right, so that takes care of the slider mates. The reason you do the mates also is if you just delete the drawer or suppress the drawer and you don't have the mate suppressed, let's unsuppress that and suppress that. Then you get this red in the menu, and I hate seeing red, so we'll suppress that. Unsuppress that for now. So we did that for the mates. Now we got to do it for the parts. configure suppression. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, then we go back to our table, uncheck each one. Alright, so now the none configuration is working. Alright, so now we have to configure the gaps. And we do that by configuring the cabinet. And see how these are lined up to each other? That means we can actually configure these to be joined. So we'll configure drawer 1 with drawer 1 of the part studio with drawer 2 of the assembly, 3 of the part studio with 3 of the assembly, 4, and 5. And say OK. So now, when I change these, nothing's going to happen yet because I have to go over here and specify when I'm in configuration 10, which is this move down here, you see. I want to use the configuration of the cabinet, which is change configuration linked to this row right here. So when I change this to 10, it should change that in the configuration of the cabinet, which will load that instance. It'll be a 10 none 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 instance of this part studio. Which what that does, well, 10 doesn't really show you, so let's go to 20. I'll slide this gap up. Maybe I was right the first time. Let's change that. So this is unconfigured. Unconfigure. 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 Set that to drawer 1. Set that to drawer 2. 3. 4. So the way it was before, I had a little brain fart. So the 10 represents the height of the door, not the gap between door 2 and 1. So probably a little confusing now because I confused myself. So either way, so whoops, let's go back over there and fix that. We unconfigured all those, so we gotta change the configuration again. So that should be T10. Yes, because that's the gap. So that'd be 10.1, 0.1, 30.1, 40.1. Paste, paste, paste. Okay, so we have nothing except for drawer 5 right now. Let's go back to the assembly. So when we are in, sorry about all that, but when we are in configuration 10 of the assembly for drawer 1, we need to have cabinet configuration of drawer 1 to also be 10. So that's what we're setting here. So if we are in configuration 1020, this needs to say 1020. So 20 drawer 2 is representing drawer 2 over here as 20. So that would need to be 20. But if this was back to none, it's reading this configuration here to none. I'm probably confusing you more. So basically you're just going to match these up, but I'm just trying to show you the connection and the relation and why. But okay, so now when we're changing these around, you'll see that that gap is 20 millimeter or centimeters because that mate connector has gone up, but right now the drawer is still coming in as a 10 millimeter drawer. So that'll be our next step. So if we went to 30, you'll see these all shifted up another 10 millimeters. Set these to none, they should all disappear. So far so good. So now let's set all these to 10 for now, just so we can have them unsuppressed while we're working. So now we need to configure each drawer to line up to whatever face height that we select here. So we do that by configuring, change configuration. We set, this is the first drawer. First instance is going to be drawer 1. So this should be configured with drawer 1. Drawer 2. Should be configured with drawer 2. Drawer 3. Should be configured with drawer 3. Drawer 4. Drawer 4. And drawer 5. There. So now if we change this to drawer 20, you're going to see it does not update the height yet because we still need to go over here and set that right here. So we have a suppression state, whether or not it's at none, and then we have the face height. This is all for drawer 2, this is all for drawer instance 1. So we'll just match these up again. So when I'm at the assembly level configuration 10 for drawer 1, I want this instance configuration to be 10. When this is at 20, I want that to be at 20. When it's at 30, I want it to be at 30. So we just go through and match everything all the way down the line. Copy paste is your friend. Ten, 20, 30, 40, 10, 20, 30, 40, 10, 20, 30, 40, 10, 20, 30, 40. And it looks like we still got a bug in copy and pasting into configurations. I know they just fixed it for the bomb, but to make sure I report that one. So we don't have a drawer 6 or 7. Okay. So now this should be 20 because that one's at the 20. That gap will go up 20 millimeters because we set the first drawer to 20. That all makes sense. So if this goes to 40, everything should slide up. Second one goes to 20, everything slides up. So basically it's going to be up to you to choose whatever matches your drawer height, and you'll just have to set everything to none that's above that. And we can hide the main connectors. Maybe. There it goes. So yeah, simple as that. Let me know if you have any more questions about it.